If you look at like a modern factory line building a smartphone, it is just this ballet of absolute rigid
Oh
perfection.
yeah, totally frictionless.
Right, you have these robotic arms moving in, like synchronized harmony. Every single piece is placed exactly where it belongs, flawlessly, every single time.
Right.
And it is a marvel of engineering, honestly, but if you stare at it long enough, you start to notice something else.
That is completely sterile. I
Yeah.
mean, there's zero room for deviation, zero room for surprise, and certainly no room for humanity.
Exactly. And for the last couple of years, it felt like the entire digital business world was trying to become that factory. We were told everything needed to be flawless and automated and just totally frictionless.
Right. The AI profession standard.
Right. So, welcome to this deep dive into the latest Bright Brief weekly research pack. We're covering July 20th through the 26th, 2026. And our mission today is to take this huge stack of fascinating marketing intelligence and extract the exact tactics you need to stand out in a business landscape that is just increasingly dominated by AI and automated platforms.
Yeah. And whether you are running a local service business or, prepping for a major marketing meeting, or maybe you're just insanely curious about how the digital economy actually works behind the scenes, you need to understand how to cut through all this noise.
Definitely.
And this deep dive is custom tailored to give you exactly that edge.
Which brings up a massive tension in our sources today. On one hand, absolutely everything is becoming automated. On the other hand, the most successful businesses are leaning heavily into their messy, real-world humanity. So, okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand how to win online today, we first have to look at the growing backlash against AI-generated sameness.
We can definitely see this playing out at the highest levels of advertising right now. A report from Axios this week shows that major brands are, well, they're deliberately testing imperfect, culturally connected campaigns.
Wait, deliberately imperfect.
Yeah, exactly. Because automated AI tools have made advertising incredibly easy and, super cheap to produce. But the unintended consequence is that everything is starting to look completely indistinguishable from everyone else's content.
Right. It's all starting to look like that sterile factory line we were talking about.
Exactly.
The graphics are perfectly lit, the copy is grammatically flawless, and the end result is just entirely forgettable. Axios actually mentions Lemonade testing these really unconventional, highly localized outdoor ads.
Yeah, and Sprite is building on its deep connection to music culture, rather than just, showing a crisp 3D rendering of a soda can.
Right, and Duolingo. They are leaning into their audience's interest in Japanese culture by doing a whole animated YouTube series. Like, they are going out of their way to be weird, or at least highly, highly specific.
What's fascinating here is the underlying psychology of it all. I mean, AI can generate a technically perfect image of a product in 2 seconds.
Right.
But it cannot, however, fake local customer rituals. It cannot simulate real employee knowledge or regional humor or, the specific way a customer reacts in a physical store.
Because polish has just become a cheap commodity.
Exactly. Perfection is now free. So recognizable human reality, with all its messy quirks, that is now the premium standard.
That brings us to, honestly, the ultimate boots-on-the-ground example of this from Upflip. We have to talk about Brent Fletcher.
Oh, this story's wild.
It really is. So this is a guy who used an $8,000 home purchase concession to start a home inspection business. He had absolutely zero experience in the industry.
Not at all.
Right. And he set a 100-day launch challenge for himself, and he did not get his first paying customer until day 97.
I mean, just think about the psychology of that for a second. Day 97 out of 100. That is a level of perseverance most people simply do not have.
Most people would quit by day 30.
Exactly. Most entrepreneurs would have completely thrown in the towel on day 60 at the latest.
But look at where he is now. Upflip reports that his company completes more than 500 inspections annually. He charges up to $900 per inspection, and he has a team of 5 people.
Which is incredible growth.
And even wilder, he grew his audience from about 4,000 to over 250,000 followers in just 6 months.
Right. Though as an analyst, I always have to note the research caveat here. These business and audience figures were reported by Upflip based on their interview with Fletcher, so they haven't been independently audited by a third party.
Fair point. Yeah.
But the specific mechanics of how he built this engine are undeniable, and that is what we really need to look at.
Right, because he didn't build this business by sitting in a perfectly lit studio giving generic AI-scripted advice on how to clean your gutters.
No, not at all.
He did the unglamorous work. He used local Chamber of Commerce networking to get those initial leads. He built a structured post-inspection presentation that was, like, specifically designed to earn referrals from realtors.
And he maintains a strict 4 a.m. video editing routine.
Yeah, but his real secret weapon, he turns the unusual discoveries he finds during actual physical home inspections into recurring social content.
He fundamentally shifted his mindset from creating to documenting.
Yes, documenting.
He isn't trying to invent content out of thin air. He is literally just setting up a camera to document the most interesting evidence already being produced by his daily work. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this strategy does two things simultaneously.
Okay, what are they?
First, it gives prospective customers undeniable proof of his expertise.
Right.
Because they're literally watching him solve real problems in real time.
Right.
And second, it gives a broader social audience something highly entertaining and, surprising to watch.
It's kind of like producing a reality show of your own business instead of trying to write a sitcom script from scratch.
That's a great way to look at it.
The reality show just requires you to carry a camera while you do what you already do. But I actually want to push back on this slightly.
Okay, go for it.
Because it makes total sense for a home inspector, right? They find weird stuff. They find a raccoon living in an attic or a disastrous DIY plumbing job behind a wall.
Right. Highly visual stuff.
Exactly. So does this document versus create strategy only work for highly visual, unpredictable jobs like home repair?
That is a great pushback, but the answer is no. It really works for almost any business, provided you find the narrative tension in your daily process.
Narrative tension.
Yeah. Think about a mundane B2B software company, for example. Documenting the bizarre customer questions you get or walking through the specific painful mistakes your onboarding team constantly has to fix, or even filming the internal debates your engineers have about a feature. That is all human reality.
Wait, let's pause on that because that is a massive light bulb moment. You're saying that even a boring B2B business has hidden narrative tension. It's just a matter of exposing it.
Precisely. It is proof of life.
Proof of life. Wow.
Yeah, in an ocean of AI-generated advice articles that sound like a robot reading a textbook, proof of life is what actually builds trust. Your customers want to know that real humans are wrestling with real problems behind the logo on your website.
That makes total sense. So Fletcher used his physical, real-world job to build a massive digital audience. But if you're listening to this and you've ever tried to build an audience, you know the harsh truth, which is that likes and views do not pay the rent.
They definitely do not.
So how do you make sure that this real-world authenticity actually translates into valuable business data? Let's look at a startup that figured out how to weaponize offline interactions. This was featured in Marketing Brew this week.
Yes, this brings us to Sour Milk, which is a very clever yogurt startup.
Super clever. Before they even attempted to pitch retail grocery stores, Sour Milk hit the streets. They delivered more than 8,000 pre-ordered yogurts right out of City Bike coolers in New York City.
Which is such a great visual.
It really is. They used founder-led social accounts, local activations, and early access offers. But they weren't just handing out yogurt to build good vibes in the neighborhood. They built an email list of approximately 5,000 subscribers. And crucially, they captured zip code data during these physical pop-ups.
That zip code data is the actual product being generated here.
Right.
And before we go further, we need to clarify what we mean when we talk about first-party data in a situation like this.
Please do.
First-party data is information a customer gives directly to you, like an email address or a zip code. It is infinitely more valuable than having an Instagram follower. Because, if Instagram changes its algorithm tomorrow, you might never reach that follower again.
Right. You're at the mercy of the platform.
Exactly. But if you have their email and their zip code, you own that connection.
And here's where it gets really interesting because I see so many local businesses fall into a massive trap with offline events. They do local pop-ups, or they sponsor a community 5K run, or they set up a beautiful booth at a farmer's market. And they do it purely for exposure.
Oh, all the time.
Right. They count how many people walked by, they hand out some expensive flyers, they smile a lot, and they call it a successful day. It is basically like throwing a truly great expensive party, but forgetting to ask anyone for their phone number before they leave.
That is exactly what it is, and it is a staggering waste of resources.
Yeah.
If we connect this to the bigger picture of modern marketing, offline promotions are only as valuable as the measurable first-party information they capture.
Measurable being the key word.
Yes. An event should never, ever be treated as the final result. Attendance is just the top of the funnel. You have to connect those physical pop-ups, those free consultations, and those product demonstrations to a location-specific email or SMS sign-up. Sour Milk didn't just want people to taste the yogurt. They wanted a database.
Because now they can walk into a grocery buyer's office and say, look, we don't just hope people like our yogurt. We have the data proving exactly how many people in this specific zip code are waiting to buy it the second you put it on your shelf.
Exactly. You trade the physical authenticity, the taste of the yogurt, the handshake for the digital data.
But once you have that authentic content and you've traded it for hard first-party data, you face the next hurdle.
Right.
Distribution.
Right. You have to distribute your message at scale. And increasingly, the digital economy forces you to hand your hard-earned data over to massive automated systems just to reach your customers.
Which brings us to the double-edged sword of marketing automation. The automation wave is here. You really can't swim against it, but you have to learn how to surf it without drowning. TechCrunch reported this week on Passionfruit, which is a B2B creator marketplace. They just launched an AI agent named Zest.
Yeah. Zest is an AI designed to help brands identify creators and then actively create, execute, and monitor influencer campaigns.
On paper, this sounds amazing. I mean, it makes creative partnerships accessible to a smaller B2B company that doesn't have the massive budget to hire an entire influencer marketing department. But it also means handing over the strategic reins to an AI, which requires absolute discipline from the business owner. You cannot rely on a creator's self-reported reach or the platform's automatically generated engagement reports.
Right, the vanity metrics.
Exactly. Those are vanity metrics.
Yeah.
If you are using an AI to scale your influencer marketing, you have to counter that automation with strict CRM attribution.
Okay, let's break down that jargon for a second.
Yeah.
What does strict CRM attribution actually look like in practice for a small business?
It means you are tracking the exact customer journey in your database.
Okay.
So when a prospective customer clicks a link from a specific influencer's video, lands on your website, and fills out a consultation form, your customer relationship management software, your CRM, tags that exact user.
Got it.
You aren't just looking at a dashboard that says, oh, we got 10,000 views. You are looking at a dashboard that says this specific video generated 3 paying clients worth $5,000 each.
That's a huge difference.
Massive. If you don't build that tracking, the AI will naturally optimize its efforts for cheap views, not for actual revenue.
And speaking of platforms optimizing for their own efficiency, we really have to talk about the massive fundamental shakeup happening over at Google Ads. Search Engine Land covered this, and if you are running a local service business like plumbing, HVAC, legal services, this is critical. Google is moving local services ads, commonly known as LSAs, into their Performance Max system.
This is a seismic shift for local businesses. The initial U.S. migration phase begins in August 2026 for selected home and storefront services.
Wow, that's soon.
Yeah. Broader U.S. groups will follow later in 2026, and non-U.S. accounts will migrate in 2027.
The mechanics of this are wild, honestly. On the surface, Google says it retains the pay-per-lead model, and ads will still only appear on search and maps. But under the hood, it is a totally different engine.
Completely different.
Historical performance reports will not transfer. Your weekly budgets are being forcibly converted into daily averages. The manual maximum cost per lead bidding, that is gone. And your core business information will now sync automatically straight from your Google business profile.
And we need to understand why Google is doing this. Google's ultimate goal with Performance Max, or PMax, is to consolidate data and use machine learning to serve ads across all of their inventory.
Right.
By folding local services ads into this massive ecosystem, they are streamlining their own systems, but they're also removing the granular, localized levers that small businesses use to rely on.
I have to jump in here because this feels like a major loss of control. Let's say you're a local roofer. Google is giving you an easier, more centralized dashboard with one hand, but they're essentially taking your steering wheel with the other.
Yes.
If historical data vanishes, aren't local service businesses basically flying blind on day one of this migration?
This raises an important question, and the honest answer is yes, if they aren't prepared.
What?
The upside of this move is faster lead routing changes and more room for photos and callouts. But the risk is immense. If your Google business profile data is inaccurate, or your team is weak at handling incoming calls, or you just don't know your historical benchmarks, it is going to be incredibly hard to diagnose what is going wrong when the new algorithm takes over.
So what is the urgent action plan here? because August 2026 is right now.
You must export your LSA reports immediately. Save that historical data to your own hard drive.
Get off Google servers.
Exactly. You need to manually record your lead-to-booking rates. You have to audit and verify your service categories, your service areas, and your operating hours on your Google business profile, because that is the central data source now. The
Right.
businesses that treat their own internal data, their response speed, and their lead quality as the inputs for this new algorithm will be the ones who survive the transition.
And while Google is pushing everyone into this highly automated performance max pool, Digiday actually reported that Google is simultaneously piloting some new controls. They are allowing some PMax advertisers to finally exclude the Google Display Network and third-party search partners.
And that pilot program is a massive lifeline.
Really?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
For years, smaller advertisers have struggled to figure out which PMax placements actually generate qualified leads. Often, they find out that a huge chunk of their budget was drained by cheap, low-value clicks on random third-party websites, rather than high-intent Google search queries.
Oh, that's frustrating.
Very. So if broader access to these exclusions rolls out, businesses can finally test if concentrating their spend purely on high-quality search inventory actually improves their booked lead rates, instead of just padding Google's reported click totals.
So we are seeing this recurring theme. The automated ad platforms naturally want to spread your budget everywhere. They want to maximize their own reported metrics, they want to serve the cheapest possible ad inventory, and they want full control. So how do you maintain strict control over your campaigns when the platform is actively trying to take it away from you?
This brings us to a really tactical framework from Search Engine Journal this week. It is specifically focused on YouTube advertisers, but the principles apply to almost any automated ad platform. They lay out a process for putting guardrails on the machine so Google doesn't just dump your budget on the cheapest possible placements.
Okay, let's build this framework together. The very first step they recommend is to stop putting a single video inside a massive campaign that spans every available surface on YouTube.
Exactly. You need to segment the environments. They recommend creating separate demand gen campaigns for YouTube Shorts, for in-stream video, and for image-based placements.
Okay, let's clarify demand gen for anyone not deep in the Google Ads weeds. Demand generation campaigns are basically designed to find customers and create interest before they are even actively searching for your product, right?
Correct. It is about pushing your visual content out to audiences based on their interests.
Right.
But if you lump all your videos into one campaign, the algorithm will just find the cheapest possible views, regardless of context. By separating them, you force the system to optimize for each specific environment.
Which naturally leads to the next step, matching the creative to that specific environment. If you are forcing a campaign to run only on YouTube Shorts, you better be using a vertical video with an immediate hook in the first 2 seconds and strong captions.
Right.
But if you are forcing a campaign to run in-stream, like those skippable ads before a video, you actually have room for a longer story-led video.
Exactly. And the third step is building intent audiences. You don't just tell the algorithm to go find people, you give it strict boundaries by uploading customer lists, high-performing search terms, and lists of people who visited your website but didn't buy.
You're giving it a map.
Yes, you are explicitly telling the algorithm exactly who to look for.
But here is the critical part, and if you take nothing else away from this framework, please remember this. You must go into the settings and manually disable optimized targeting.
Yes, this is the absolute most crucial part for strict retargeting. Optimized targeting is basically a setting where Google says, well, we know you gave us an audience list, but if we think we can find cheaper conversion somewhere else, we're going to expand your reach.
Which sounds helpful, but isn't.
Exactly.
Yep.
If you leave it on, the algorithm will inevitably expand beyond your intended audience, which severely dilutes your lead quality.
So what does this all mean? When I look at this framework, it feels exactly like going to a high-end, all-you-can-eat buffet.
Okay.
But in this scenario, the algorithm is the waiter, and the waiter's primary goal is to save the restaurant money. So the waiter just keeps filling your plate with the cheapest bread and pasta over and over, hoping you get full before you ask for the good stuff.
That's hilarious.
But this framework, separating the campaigns, building intent audiences, and explicitly disabling optimized targeting, this is how you physically force the waiter to stop bringing you bread and finally bring you the expensive steak and the good seafood.
That analogy captures the dynamic perfectly. The algorithm is not your friend, but it's also not your enemy. It is simply a machine optimizing for its own efficiency.
Right.
Treating your response speed, your audience environment, and your lead quality as strict, non-negotiable inputs is the only way to make these new automated systems work for you rather than against you. You have to build the guardrails or the machine will drive you off the road.
This has been such a dense, valuable deep dive. If we zoom out and look at the whole journey today, the playbook for surviving the AI wave is actually becoming incredibly clear. First, you have to reject the sterile, AI-generated perfection. You document the messy, authentic, highly specific reality of your daily operations to build actual trust with your audience.
Second, you refuse to settle for vanity metrics in the real world. You turn those physical interactions, those local pop-ups and events, into hard, location-specific data. You
Right.
don't just throw a great party. You get the phone numbers and zip codes before anyone leaves.
And third, you take that authentic content and that hard data, and you build steel guardrails around the automated ad systems. You audit your business profiles, you segment your campaigns, and you force the algorithms to deliver actual booked business value, not just cheap clicks.
And whether you are prepping for a board meeting tomorrow or you are just trying to get a side hustle off the ground, these principles are the biggest advantages you have right now. Authentic proof over polished generic advice and rigorous control over automated tools.
Which brings us right back to where we started. We talked about that flawless, sterile smartphone factory line versus the messy, quirky reality of human beings. But I want to leave you with a thought to mull over.
Okay.
If AI is making polished, perfect, creative, dirt cheap to produce, and imperfect human reality is now the ultimate premium standard for building trustry, how long until we start seeing major brands intentionally making fake mistakes?
Oh, wow. That is a chilling thought. Artificially roughing up their content just to blend in.
Exactly. Having the actor in the commercial intentionally stumble over a word or leaving a typo in a graphic or using a shaky camera effect just to trick the algorithm and you, the audience, into thinking they are human. When perfection becomes the baseline, imperfection becomes the strategy. So the question for you to explore is this. In a year or two, how will you tell the difference between true boots-on-the-ground authenticity and a factory line that has just been cleverly programmed to simulate human flaws? Let that simmer.